and even on my own is actually becoming more of a gift than you know, the big contracts and things like that. So so I think everyone's sort of reevaluated now a little bit, you know, about what's important.
Correct.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, that's wonderful. I see our past district governor, Mohammed Abdallah, has joined us. Welcome, PDG Mohammed. Dr. Beatrice, welcome.
Wow, so we're going to have quite a few people on this, huh?
Yes, we do. President Ambrose Bouvi, welcome. Ivan Yawira, welcome.
Nana.
Hey!
Yeah. Hi, Farid.
How are you?
After a long time.
I'm telling you, you look exactly the same.
Oh, I don't know. I lost more hair.
You look the same.
You're not around here. You're in out of Kenya these days, aren't you?
No, I'm here. I'm here. I'm in Lavington right now. Yeah, at home.
Well, I must tell our president that I've known him and his family for a long time. We're in fact distant relations as well.
Yes.
But I see his sisters, but I haven't seen him for a long time. It's nice to see you. That's why I made a point to be here today.
Thank you. Nice to see you too, Uncle. Yeah, really nice.
You know, Farid, I'm one of the oldest Rotarians in our district. So I've been Rotarian since 1965.
Wow.
I've done everything that is required of Rotary in my career. Ritesh has now taken over the helm, and you can see his chain of office. It is nearly 80, 79 previous presidents have been member of this Rotary Club.
Wow, wow. What number were you?
No, I was a president in Mombasa.
Oh, I see.
And, yeah, and then I went to Canada and I was Rotarian. We involved very heavily there, as you know. Then I got back here the last 15, 20 years, now 15 years. And I'm also quite heavily, even right now, I'm very heavily involved at the moment.
Great.
Anyway, we'll catch up. I'll give you a call so we can catch up.
Please. I'd love to see you. I'd love to come and see you, yeah.
I just have one minor correction to make here, PDG Mohammed. We are now turning 90. I'm the 90th president.
Oh, 90th, you're right, yeah. After so many years, 10 years is here or there.
I know. Oh, it's so wonderful.
Yeah. But the second Rotary Club was in Mombasa.
Yes.
Where I joined I joined in 1965. It has been there since 1944.
Yes. As a matter of fact, PDG Mohammed, PDG Hamid Abu sends his best regards to you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, he is certainly more involved now than before. That's good. PDG, for information of Farid, is a past district governor.
Past district governor. Past President Omi Nagpal, welcome.
Thank you.
How are you today?
I'm fine, thanks.
Wonderful. And Rotarian Paul Kuria, how are you? Ambrose Bouvi, Lynette, and we have Priscilla. Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for joining us. Yunus, Kainu, welcome. Rotarian Bashara, welcome. Now I see that Rotarians Kalpa and Rashmi are now joining us. Wonderful. And Mr. Michael Hopkins. Welcome, Rashmi.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Hey.
Hi, Farid.
Hi, how are you?
Afternoon, Mr. Nagpal and Mr. Mohammed Abdullah. Hi, Ritesh.
Hi, Rashmi, how are you?
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Kalpa.
Hello. How are you, Mr. Hopkins?
Hi, yeah, fine, thanks. Hi, President.
Karen Kalpa, how are you? How's everything in Nyeri?
Cold Neri.
Cold in Nyeri. Thank you. So please do make our guests feel welcome. I request all Rotarians of our club to please make all our guests feel welcome as we have 4 minutes to begin the meeting.
Good afternoon, everybody from a very cold Neri. Welcome all the new people who are. Good afternoon, Mr. Michael. Welcome. He's been proposed by PP Mike Eldon to join our club. So he will be joining in for a few more meetings, and then we will have him on board. I don't know if we have Honesta. She has been recommended from Rotary Club of Mombasa. She also has been transferred from Mombasa to our club. So I've asked her to come online so she can get to know our members.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Rotarian Kalpa, and welcome, Mr. Michael Hopkins. You have come in as a guest of our past president, Mike Eldon, and we welcome you to our online meeting. And Dr. Beatrice, how are you doing? I see you waving at us and a beautiful smile.
I'm very well, thank you. It's good to be back.
Wonderful.
Yes, good to see everybody too.
How are you enjoying this wonderful cold weather?
Do you know, I'm waiting for it to get biting hot, cold, because
yes.
I haven't rushed out and got the winter gear out yet.
Not yet.
No.
So, I see Rotarian Irene has got a keyboard. There's going to be some advice there.
Is it possible for me to bring the document so that it can be executed in this center? Is it possible? Nairobi.
Irene.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi, how are you, Beatrice? Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Yeah. Well, you're saying it's not cold yet. I've heard it with this cold, hey?
Well, it hasn't begun.
I've heard it with this cold. I'm thinking, wow, yeah, on to the next chapter.
I agree with PDG Mohammed. This is warm when we start thinking about how cold it is in other parts of the world. Not at the point in time, but during winter.
Yeah.
And welcome to all guests. Rotarian Anuja, welcome. Kudrat, welcome. So I will request all visiting Rotarians and guests to kindly introduce themselves in the chat group. And I can see our Sergeant at Arms for the day, past President Kamal Sanghani, is logged on. Greetings, past President Mike. How are you? And how's past President Evelyn?
She's imminent. She's coming.
Wonderful. Rotarian Winnie, good afternoon.
Afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon. Okay, so we have our guest speaker for today with us, who was logged on quite a while back. And thank you all for logging on. I see our Vice President, Ambassador Dr. Josephine Ojambo has now logged on. Rotarian Anuja, how are you today?
Hello, everyone. I'm very well, thank you, Ritesh. Welcome to all my guests as well.
Josephine, how are you?
I'm fine. I will soon be putting on my camera. Good afternoon, President Ritesh, fellow Rotarians and friends, and my guests too. Delighted to be together and looking forward to our fellowship.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I see we still have 5 minutes before we can begin the meeting, and I would like Past President Mike to tell us how was your week and anything interesting going on?
My week was good. A couple of days ago, I was on a radio program broadcasting to 90,000 people in Nyanza, talking about social cohesion. That was an interesting experience. Then in the evening, I had an event where I was talking to a few hundred people from Goldman Sachs about how race relations aren't such an issue in Kenya. And yesterday, I was on one of Professor Michael Hopkins' meetups hosted in Geneva with Globe Ethics. Oh, speaking of Michael Hopkins, he's online with us as my guest today. So I'm very happy to introduce a man who in the last very few years has become a very close friend and a colleague, and he's a professor of CSR and sustainability. He'll be our guest speaker later in August, so you'll be hearing more about that subject from him. And who knows, one of these days, he might even wish to become a member of our club, so we better be nice to him.
We definitely have to be very nice to him, and especially due to the fact that he's your friend as well. So thank you, Past President Mike, and welcome, Mr. Michael Hopkins. And I would like now, please, if Past President Omi Nagpal can tell us how was his week. How was your week, Past President Omi? Okay.
I'm on.
There we are.
Yes, I've had a good week, mostly at home, as I've confined myself to the house and spend my time reading and doing the odd bit of legal work. But it's been a very pleasant week. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Your hair's even longer than mine, Omi.
Sorry?
Your hair is even longer than mine.
Oh, my hair is totally unmanageable now.
I can see. Unlike my wife, who has joined me now, she's quite manageable.
I need to go to a barber. I'm 5 months overdue.
You look like a Bollywood star, Omi.
Thank you.
Don't listen to him.
Thank you. So, Rotarians and guests, we are now going to begin the meeting in just about a minute's time. Welcome, Rotarians and guests. I now call the meeting to order. Now call the meeting to order. Thank you. I'll kindly request all Rotarians to kindly mute their mics. Thank you. I would now request Rotarian Irene to kindly sing the national anthem for us.
Can you hear me just fine?
Yes, we can hear you fine.
Okay. So here we go. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for such a beautiful rendition of our national anthem, which in itself is a prayer. And you're very talented, Rotarian Irene. Thank you.
Thank you.
I now request our past President Kamal Sangani, who is Sergeant at Arms, has just lost internet connection. So I will request Vice President Ambassador Dr. Josephine to kindly recite, to say a prayer for us, if possible.
President Ritesh, I'm back.
You're back. Wonderful, wonderful. Greetings. Yes. Yes, Vice President Kamal, can you please say the grace for us?
Yeah, the Rotary Grace.
Yes.
O God and giver of all good, we thank Thee for our daily food. Many Rotary friends and Rotary ways help us to serve Thee all of our days. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Past President Kamal, our Sergeant at Arms for the day. And now I will request Rotarian Winnie Gerards to kindly recite the four-way test.
Okay, the four-way test. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you.
Thank you, Rotarian Winnie. So all the visitors visiting Rotary, all the guests, the four-way test is what Rotarians live by. And if you heard the words carefully, you will understand that it's a way to guide us in our daily lives. I now request all individuals to either have a glass of water or whatever you have with you to drink. If you can raise it, alternatively, kindly put your hand on your chest and we will raise a toast to the President of the Republic of Kenya. Thank you. I shall now begin with the introductions. I request Rotarians to kindly introduce their guests, and I want to begin with Rotarian Rashmi. Rotarian Rashmi Chung, kindly introduce your guests.
Good afternoon, everybody. I would like to introduce my guest, Mr. Khimani. I think he's well known in Nairobi for me to really give a long introduction to him. But I got to know Farid when around 4 years ago when he started producing Lit 360, a music show that my team was producing at Nation. What I have realized over the years that he is incredibly creative and he has an amazing capacity to think of concepts as and when people throw questions at him. So highly creative, very good at conceptualizing. And Farid, I think you're intensely disciplined as well. To do a morning show month on month on month after waking up in the morning and actually thinking up on the spot about what content to serve to everybody is an amazing thing that you do on a daily basis. I welcome you to Rotary, and I know that we are all waiting to hear what you have to say about music and how you have been nurturing talent. Welcome, Farid.
Thank you. Thank you, Rotarian Rashmi. I now can see there are many visiting Rotarians, so before I go on to other Rotarians to introduce their guests, I request visiting Rotarians to introduce themselves. Welcome, Rotarian Perry Ditch.
Welcome, Ritesh, and the rest of the Club of Nairobi. It is a pleasure to join you from North Carolina in the United States. I really wish I could be there in person and had planned to travel in September, but my plans have been postponed till I think maybe February. But I bring you greetings from my club, the New River Onslow Club in Jacksonville, North Carolina.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Rotarian Perry. Kindly convey our best regards to all members of your club too.
Thank you.
Rotarian Priscilla, welcome. Welcome, Rotarian Carol Gatua from Nairobi East. Welcome, Rotarian Wanjiku. Welcome, Kate Washira. Welcome, Rotaractor Ruth Kihoro. Rotarian Veronica, welcome. I see we have ADDR Kevin, welcome. We have Rotarian Lynette, welcome. We have Rotarian Keith, welcome. Rotarian Liz, Mosheshe, welcome. Rotaractor Kim, welcome. Rotarian Susan, welcome. Welcome, District Secretary Tito, welcome. Welcome, Rotarian Bernadette. Welcome, Rotarian Caroline, and welcome to all Rotarians visiting from various clubs. I request you kindly to write your name and club in the Zoom chat group. I would now like to request all Rotarians who have guests to introduce their guests. Rotarian Rashmi has introduced our speaker for today, Farid Khimani, as our guest, and I now request past President Mike Eldon to kindly introduce his guest.
Thank you, Ritesh. And for those who are on early, I did pre-introduce Michael Hopkins, whom I described as having become a dear friend and a colleague in the work that we do. We are co-founders together of the Institute for Responsible Leadership. And Michael has been a professor for many years in many different countries, from South America to Europe, to India, to here. And he's a professor of corporate social responsibility and sustainability. He is married to a very distinguished, wonderful Somali lady. And it's my great pleasure to introduce him here today, knowing that he will be our speaker on 20th of August about his topic. And as I said, maybe one of these days become a member of our club.
Thank you very much indeed, Past President Mike. I would like Ambassador Dr. Josephine to kindly introduce her guests.
Thank you very much, President Ritesh, fellow Rotarians and guests. I just want to add a little bit to the introduction that's just been given by Perry Ditch of himself. Many of you may have heard of the Chiri project. It's a school project for primary school children based in Kibra. Peridich and his club have done some founding work at the school, training them online in music and art, and they are now working together with us to develop and fund a proposal for a borehole, water, sanitation, and hygiene in the school in Kibra. I thought it's important to share that. We want to thank Perry for his support so far and for participating this afternoon. I also want to say a word again about WASH, and specifically to introduce our Rotary scholar, Dennis Sigay. Dennis is now firmly on his way to start his master's program in Netherlands. And in the time since we began to work with Dennis and mentor him as a club, he has participated on the Emergency Response Committee and put in place the MapWash system, which is now tracking the qualitative and quantitative inputs into WASH around Kenya with Rotary and several partners. Welcome to our fellowship, both Peridich and Dennis Sigay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Dr. Josephine. Is there any other Rotarian who has some guests today? Welcome, past president.
I do have a guest.
Wonderful.
Guests actually. It's Tahani and Ross. Ross is a musician, and Tahani is his partner. They are online. They'll be attending. I think they've already registered. Thank you.
Wonderful. Immediate past president Jessica, welcome to the meeting. Sorry, I'm noticing the name there is David's iPhone, so I was not sure whether this is past president David Hasty or past president Dr. David Gatanga. Welcome.
Yeah.
I shall have to correct that.
Yes. Thank you, Rotary Anuja.
Yeah, I have a few guests, a couple of guests from KCA University. They're my students, and we are starting, as you know, the Rotaract Club at the university. We're going to have our first meeting this evening, and we're going to be inviting you next week to meet us. So just welcome to them. And they're learning as they go on, and they already attended, I think this is their second event that they're attending at the Nairobi Club. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm so pleased that this is happening at last. You and I have been working on this Rotaract Club for KCA for some time. Wish them well from me this evening.
Thank you.
I hope to have you as one of our guests very soon, Mike. I should be in touch.
Good.
Thank you. That's wonderful news, past President Mike, and thank you, Rotarian Anuja. And welcome to all the guests, and any other Rotarian who has some guests to introduce? Welcome, Rotarian Irina. Welcome, past President Sudesh. Welcome, Justice Aluwach. And Rotarian Nelson Buru. Welcome all. Yes. Do we have any announcements from club members and visiting Rotarians? No, I believe we have done the announcements in the introduction. I now request our Sergeant at Arms. Our Sergeant today is past President Kamal Sanghani to kindly carry out the SAA duties.
Thank you very much, President Ritesh. Before I give you my Sergeant at Arms duties, just for the information of all, to make your Sergeant at Arms contributions, please M-Pesa on business number 982-800, and then followed by the account number, which is 30,000-43905. That's 30,000-43905. And also, once you've done that, just put up it on the chat so that our treasurer, Parul, can reconcile his accounts before the end of the meeting and then give me the figures for the announcement. how should I start? I'm going to find Mike Eldon, first of all. He made a comment on Evelyn's haircut, Omi's haircut, and he compared Evelyn to that. So Mike, you are going to pay Evelyn's fine and your fine as well. Again, I'm going to find Mike Eldon. He nearly took the credit from Anuja's Rotary Club in startup. So Anuja, I'm favoring you, but also for that, you're going to pay because you took over from what Mike Eldon couldn't do. I'm going to fine our immediate past president for using the husband's phone and not saying that it's her phone. So I'm going to fine her for that. Then I'm going to, I'm just going to open up the gallery. I'm going to find Margareta. She's always on time connecting to us from the US. Dr. Josephine Ojiambo, I'm going to find you as well. You took away an introduction from another member. You know, adding spice spoils sometimes the broth. So I'm going to find you. Our Lady Justice Alwatch, I'm going to find you as well because you have been a very nice lady judge to some of us at times. And at the same time, we're also praying for that your daughter gets well. Past President Arun Devani, I'm going to find you as well. You're not listening to me, you're reading something. So I'm going to find you as well. Then Irina, I can't see you, so I'm going to find you as well. Muhammad Abdullah, how are you? I'm going to find you as well. You haven't kept in touch with me since I left the club. So, I was looking forward to your mentorship. So I'm going to find you for that. Who else can I find? Yes, Sudesh, you are my neighbor. I thought we would do a joint connection and save money on the internet. So whatever you have tried to save, please give to Rotary. Nelson Buru, you have got a picture, profile picture, which is befitting a head of state, giving, or rather I should say, it looks like more or less like the Minister of Health currently giving a COVID interview. So I'm going to fine you for that. Somebody's changing my, who else can I find? And the wonderful ladies who have all joined in. You have outsmarted me today. I couldn't shave, so please pay for that. Vinny, you're very far from your camera, so I'm going to fine you for that. And who else? Yes, no, though not our member, but Angela Bogwa, we are going to fine you. You're driving and listening to a meeting. That's very, very, you're breaking the traffic law, but you're doing something.
Sorry, Sergeant, I think you're muted.
I can't hear anything.
Past President Kamal, sorry, I think we've lost you. We can't hear you.
I think by now we've all been fined.
We've all been fined. So thank you. Thank you, Past President Kamal.
Ritesh did not get fined.
I will find myself.
I think he can't also hear anybody. He is just continuing to speak. Maybe somebody should call him. He's in another meeting.
I see. Past
I
President
think so.
Kamal? Past President Kamal, Rotarian Kalpa, could you please give a call to Past President Kamal?
Yeah.
As we can't hear him.
And find it for us.
President, we need to find past President Kamal to, for being off, off the line.
Yeah, that's what I've written. We find him.
Wonderful. And I'm going to say that I'm elated to see that Past President Diamond Lalji joined us today, and I'm going to contribute an extra.
You went. Audio was not. Hi,
Sorry, Kalpa. Yes, we heard that.
Hi. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Sergeant, for the wonderful collections which we are going to make today. Thanks to all the fines you have issued. Thank you, Past President Kamal Sanghani. I would like now Rotarian Kalpa Padya to kindly introduce our speaker for today, Mr. Farid Khimani.
Good afternoon, Rotarians and guests. Who doesn't know Farid Khimani? I think Sergeant at Arms, please take note and find everybody who doesn't know Farid Khimani. Farid Khimani, Kenyan Indian, Kenyan media personality, corporate MC and producer, co-owner at Nusu Nusu Production Limited, began his broadcasting career in 2004, presenting Mnet Pan-African lifestyle show Studio 53 and later Comedy Club. Farid was one of the cast members on season 3 of Mnet's hit drama series Changes. He has presented East Africa's lifestyle television show Mashiriki Mix and has created Lit 360 for Nation Media. He has worked in radio as both a presenter and programs controller for Capital FM Nairobi, XFM Nairobi and Nation FM Nairobi. He has also hosted quite a number of shows: Big Brother Africa, the Africa presenter, Mnet South Africa, Studio 53, the presenter KTN Kenya, Face of Africa Live, Final Lagos, Nigeria, AMBCA nominees announcement, and is one of the most recognizable faces in the Kenyan broadcasting industry.
Thank you very much.
The floor is yours, Farid.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, thank you very much for the wonderful introduction, and Rashmi, thank you so much for your wonderful introduction as well. I really, we miss you here in Nairobi for sure, and we had, created something really wonderful together that's still going on, which I'll get to a little bit later on in my presentation. So, I was asked to talk about nurturing musical talent, and obviously looking at it from a Kenyan perspective, having grown up, basically all over the world in the UK and the States as well, but having, roots here. My mom is a Kenyan, my father from Tanzania, and coming back to Kenya in 2000. And I remember my first broadcasting job was actually at Capital FM in 2000. And, for those of you, and I think many of you were around at that time, will remember the early years of radio here. It was, unless it was international music, it wasn't played, it wasn't broadcasted on radio. In fact, it was, almost frowned upon to play local, and we say local music then. During that period in 2000 was when the sort of wave of Kenyan music sort of emanated from the underground. And I'll give you a bit of an example. Those of you who know the artist Nameless, one of the biggest musical stars in the country, he actually called into Capital for a competition. He was working in the IT industry, and someone asked him to rap something on air to win a prize, and that's actually how his musical career took off. And that was kind of the beginning of the local music scene here in Kenya. Something that I'm quite proud to have been instrumental in its growth over the course of the last 20 years, which seems like a long time, but it's actually not that long of a time when you look at the growth and the popularity that Kenyan music has enjoyed since that time. In the early days, it was quite difficult. A lot of young upcoming artists in Kenya, and specifically Nairobi, which is kind of the urban hotbed of local music, the musical styles, kapuka and genge, you know, Nairobi being the hotbed. But the challenge we had at that time, and a lot of the criticism we got was the fact that we play a lot of the music due to its production quality. And when I say production quality, I mean the music might have been good, the sound might have been good, the lyrics might have been good, the beats might have been good, but there was no central source of high-end production, and that was both in alone. Sorry, I realized. Can you guys hear me? Are we? Yeah. Okay. So
Yes.
from that perspective alone, where music production quality was low, we actually refused to play local music on radio, and there was a lot of criticism thrown our way, saying that, you know, we were, you know, a quote unquote Muzungu station. We were quote unquote, you know, foreigners trying to, you know, push our agenda onto the local listener base. But it was basically, you know, a form of trying to improve the quality of sound of local music here in Kenya. And it played its part as well, because that's when musicians and producers started taking it seriously. And I myself was also very instrumental in helping producers to produce music. My background, of course, being in audio more so than video. And that's when the music quality started to improve, and the growth, and it just blew up from 2000 to 2004 and 2005. The government put in a recommendation, not a recommendation, actually a law that I think 30% of all music on radio stations had to be local music. And that kind of pushed the agenda of local music up to a standard. It still wasn't at an international standard, but it was at a very, very good standard. But obviously these things take time, and we had the time to push it and to ensure that local music met international quality sound as well. And again, what was considered cool in the West, you know, wasn't considered cool in Kenya at the time. And when I say cool, I'm talking about trends. People here, and specifically artists and musicians, had their own voice, and they wanted that voice to be heard. And so playing a song from a hip hop artist from Brooklyn was not resonating with an audience from Umoja or Kawangware or Buruburu for that matter. And this was the disconnect that music had. And it took a long time to sort of learn and to adapt and to create the sounds that we now hear in the local music scene. Airplay, I want to talk about airplay a little bit. Airplay of local music was rare. You know, if a song made it to the local radio stations, if a local song made it to the local radio stations, it was a huge thing. And for those of you who have followed radio and from its early days in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, that was the key, right? That was the key for an artist. If you got your song on the radio, that you had made it. And we sort of arrived 20, 30 years late here for that to happen with local music. But when it started happening, artists started getting paid, concerts started being booked, and then we almost started to run before we could walk. So here we were with local musicians that were from a hood or a neighborhood that a population of the country could resonate and connect with. But the quality of the sound and all that was still having to play catch up. So concerts were being done. Again, sound quality was poor. Radio stations were playing music. Sound quality was poor. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's more about the message that these young artists wanted to bring out. And to have been in a radio station like Capital FM and moved on to other radio stations, Nation FM and XFM, where, you know, we were instrumental in getting that sound out. And then obviously radio stations started to say, look, we've got production facilities. We'll allow musicians to come here and record their music. And we improve the quality of the sound. The first big musical genre to come out of Kenya was kapuka. For those of you who don't know what it is, I suggest Googling it a little bit later, and you can hear some kapuka artists, but I'll give you Nameless being the sort of headliner of the kapuka sound. And that was, it's more the beat that they have, that the music, that particular genre kapuka has, that made it, and again, authentically Kenyan. It was a Kenyan drum beat that was, you know, morphed into sort of a hip hop sound. And it just blew up. It absolutely blew up. So 2004, now we're going into 2007, 2008, more artists started coming out of the woodwork, more properly produced songs started coming out of the woodwork, and more airplay was happening in the radio stations as well. Again, we still had the issue with production, but we opened production houses, we mentored producers, and we created now properly produced, polished audio for radio, and again, eventually for music videos as well. Also, during that time, Kenya was, this is a really nice part of my journey as well. I love this story, and I love telling this story. Capital FM, when it came into in the market in 1996, played a lot of rock music, a lot of pop rock music. And I'm a huge rock fan, to be perfectly honest. So we continued to play rock music on local radio stations from the West. And that gave birth to an entire genre of musicians and groups and singers in Kenya that are rock groups. And it's a very underground scene here, but we actually have a quite a big rock base of bands and musicians as well. For those of you who are not familiar, there's groups like Rish, Parking Lot Grass, 20 More Days, all of these, Murphy's Floor, all of these are local Kenyan rock groups. So again, adopting a sound from the West and making it, wholly their own sound as well. And that was a huge part of the underground birth of local rock music around 2010 onwards as well. I think, what happened during that period as well, which is very interesting, is the fact that the push from your parents to be a doctor or a lawyer or to work in a bank, which was kind of all of our growing up, it started to shift to the creative industry. And the youth were given options now, that there's money to be made in music, there's money to be made in audiovisual production. And again, the entire mindset of you're wasting your time, this is more of a hobby than a job, that also changed. These last 20 years have been incredible in terms of mindset changes, not just for the youth and where music is coming from and where the arts and culture platform is coming from, but from our parents as well, and rather their parents as well, to accept something that is completely different than what was the norm, perhaps when I was growing up. And I'm sure many of you listening and watching today were growing up where it was, these are the sort of career paths you must take. And that's it, and there's nothing else outside of this sort of 4 or 5, industries where you should be working. I myself was quite lucky, to be honest. I told my parents I wanted to be a journalist. My dad laughed a little bit, so I started off in pre-law, but then slowly on my own kind of shifted towards journalism, because this is all I ever wanted to do, was be in broadcasting. And I managed to make a career out of it, but probably one of the older people that was given the freedom to choose an alternate career like that. But then again, it helped me to get into things like television production and, of course, music production as well. Now, there was also another shift around 2012, 2013 for musicians, which has changed the whole game altogether, and that's the digital space. The digital space, of course, has created the need to be on radio, the need to debut or to have your song debut on a radio station. This doesn't really exist anymore because the digital space has given everyone a platform. And we'll talk more about that a little bit later when I get into talking about Lit 360, which is the program we created with Rashmi as well. The digital space has given freedom to anyone to create music and not just music, but to create any kind of content, really. And that has been a game changer. So, you look at artists like Justin Bieber, for example. He started off on YouTube. There's a young Kenyan artist right now by the name of Ari Medirata, a young Asian Kenyan. And I've filmed a couple of his music videos, and he's making a huge wave on YouTube globally. So all of a sudden, you're not locked into your market anymore. The digital space has actually offered a wide market, global market. The entire world can see what you're doing. And if you're good enough, it doesn't really matter where you're from. It used to be like, we would say local music or a Kenyan artist or a Kenyan musician. That doesn't exist anymore. Now you're an artist because the entire world can see you. And for those of you who want to know how the digital space works, you just have to watch an episode of the Kardashians. They're billionaires now, and they're not really doing a heck of a lot in terms of riveting content, but there you go. That's how the digital space has changed the game in terms of young musicians and music. And, you do get, very good musicians and music on the digital space. You also get garbage music in, but everyone has a chance to shine. And that's changed the game completely. And if you just go and look at Kenyans on Twitter, for those of you who are on the social media space, you'll see how big that digital space is and how much exposure people are getting within that digital space. There has been, over the years, a criticism of Kenyan music, and that's that it doesn't really have its own sound, that it's quite a borrowed sound from the West. And I want to take maybe a moment to talk a little bit about music in Tanzania and Nigeria. It's incredible what the Tanzanians and Nigerians have done with their music. They really haven't borrowed a lot from the West. What they've borrowed from the West, and maybe something we could learn here in Kenya in terms of our musical talent, is they borrowed the ability to produce high quality sound and high quality video, and that's it. So the Nigerian sound is really a Nigerian sound. If you put on any radio station, if you put on any music platform on your phone and download a song, you can tell immediately that it's a Nigerian song because it is a unique sound. Tanzania as well, with Bongo Flava, which is their own unique sound, which is really a beautiful Swahili hip hop and urban sound, but it's really wholly their own. The criticism here is that maybe Kenya borrowed a bit too much in terms of its sound and its style from the West, but it's something that is starting to be shift a little bit more and more on a daily basis into a wholly Kenyan sound. The genres that really stand out as Kenyan and that you can hear the Kenyanness in them are Kapuka, as we mentioned earlier, Genge, and of course Gengeton as well, which are uniquely Kenyan sounds. But this is still a developing process and still something that maybe if you look at an artist, a Nigerian artist, Burna Boy, who has just recently won a Grammy, a global award, the biggest in the world, as a Nigerian artist, I think we're quite a long way away from there as well. The Nigerians seem to have just taken music, its production quality, and just kind of run with it. So that's kind of the metamorphosis and the phase that Kenyan music is in at this moment as well. I feel, and I've had this conversation with a number of my friends who are parents, that we are still stuck in our curriculum in schools of teaching musical instruments, but not allowing our kids to become expressive in their creativity when it comes to music as well. And I think a big step for curriculum would be allowing kids that freedom. I haven't thought about how that would work or the format of how that would work, but I would honestly say that I think that the creativity is not learning to play the piano, or the creativity is not learning to play the saxophone, or the creativity is not in learning to play the flute, although those are great musical instruments to learn and to have. But I feel like there's a box in the creativity of expression, and that can change, I think, in our curriculum. A lot of schools in the West, not that I want to draw examples to the West, but a lot of schools in the West actually have things like writing for music or hip hop or creating beats, even music production courses. This is a place we can really go to here, and I think that will also aid in the development of, we don't want to structure creatives, we don't want to structure artists, but there is a basis of knowledge and education that everyone needs when you're starting out in a career. It doesn't matter if it's a creative industry or the medical industry. There is a basis, a bag of tools, a bag of tricks that you have to have, and I think that would be a wonderful way for schools to start pushing that agenda. And also, again, parents would see it as possibly a livelihood in the future and not something as a hobby. Again, how do we take Kenyan music to the next level? I think this is really, an open-ended question and really doesn't have one answer or any really concrete answers. I think that, there has been some work done in the industry, but not enough work done in the industry. I don't think we have a proper copyright board, and I probably shouldn't say this, but I'll say it anyway. We see a lot of artists complaining that their royalties haven't been paid. I myself have not, had any experiences like that because I'm, obviously not an artist. But there is an issue with the copyright board. There's an issue with royalties. There's an issue with mentorship. Are we mentoring artists? Are the older artists mentoring the younger artists? Some of the more established artists, opening up production houses where they can bring in artists. That's not really happening, and that could technically be strictly a financial hindrance from the artist perspective. But on the royalty side and the copyright side, the infrastructure is 100% there, in my opinion. There are companies like a number of the corporates, telcos and things that have created systems where if a song is downloaded, you can tell that song's been downloaded, and technically the artist should be paid their royalties. Is it happening? I'm not entirely sure. But from what I've heard and from my interactions with artists and management of artists, unfortunately, that's still a very gray area for artists. So I think until we solve that problem, what is the incentive really? We're also in a time now where, perhaps a lot of these artists who weren't making royalties were making money, doing concerts to live audiences. Well, again, that's been taken away due to the pandemic, and that's obviously causing a big problem here. On that note, though, Ministry of Culture has allocated quite a bit of money. That's Culture, Arts and Sports, has allocated quite a bit of money to growing the music scene, and not just music, but entertainment in general, comedians, musicians, etc. Realizing right now that the livelihood of these artists has been affected, tremendously, probably more than any other industry, really, with the COVID-19 pandemic. There's a lot of virtual concerts going on right now. We've just created one, actually, called Studio Tisa, where we bring artists in, and we have a little tip jar at the bottom of the screen so people can make donations. But again, it's still on merit. It's not like buying a ticket to a show and sharing the gate with the artist. So there is a bit of a challenge right now with COVID. But again, that being a global problem, not necessarily a Kenyan problem, where artists are simply not allowed to perform in front of live audiences. 4 years ago, we had a meeting where we actually asked to fill out a request for a proposal for a music show at Nation Media Group, and that request came from Rashmi's office. Rashmi, who invited me to speak today. And this, to me, is really the next level of how we can promote, improve, and formalize the way musicians are treated in the country. And when I say musicians, I don't want, it's not just hip hop and urban music. We're talking about all musicians. So we created this program called Lit 360, which was a music lifestyle show. I don't think any of us thought it would have I certainly didn't think it would have the impact it had. But it was absolutely incredible from the first episode up until the end of season 2, and now we're getting into a third season of the program as well. But there was more to it than that. The show itself was what we were producing as a Nusu Nusu Productions, my production house, which I share with my business partner by the name of Mark Moss. But there was more to that. There was a music label and bringing artists in and treating artists with the respect they deserve and making sure their needs are taken care of. It was an entire music movement, or rather is an entire music movement. And I, again, would like to thank Rashmi. It really opened my eyes as well of not, I could only see the good in the Kenyan music scene from where I sat as a radio host, but having gotten involved in the Kenyan music scene, it also opened my eyes to the things that need to be addressed and need to be changed. And we mentioned them earlier, like royalties and copyrights and things like that. Lit 360 is an incredible program. We get into the lives of the artists. We go to the concerts. We meet their friends. We meet their families. We do days out with them. It really is a wonderful platform to push music as well. What Lit 360 did, which was an incredible phenomenon, was we would profile an artist, in the third episode of the season. And by the 10th episode, they'd gone from a little-known artist to a headlining artist. This is what the platform, the Nation Media Group, and Lit 360 did for artists. It really was a tremendous, and it has been, I should say, a tremendous journey of trying to formalize, or do our part, I should say, our small part in formalizing the music industry as well. Interesting story that I want to share with you about. And many of you may or may not know the artist Diamond Platnumz. He's a massive global artist, Tanzanian artist. A little bit of a background of him and how the Tanzanian music industry has developed and kind of left Kenya a little bit behind. We have a band here called P Unit, a musical group, 4 guys. And Diamond Platnumz was actually a backup artist for them many, many years ago, backup singer and dancer. And now he has gone on as a Tanzanian to become one of the biggest stars in the world. And I think Tanzania has really embraced their artists. They get a lot of government support in Tanzania when they're doing well. They're pushed by their government to go across the world and perform. And again, we don't really have that infrastructure here. I know Ministry of Culture and Arts is trying to do their part, and hopefully it will turn around, especially during this pandemic time. But Tanzania really took a front line with their artists. And who better to be ambassadors, really, of your country? Someone who is a clean record, not a lot of controversy around them, who can be a spokesperson, a face and a voice for the country. I think it's very important. We did it with our athletes, obviously with Eliud Kipchoge, but I think there's more we can do with our artists as well. On that note, and before I close, there's some fundamental areas that need to be addressed within the country. I'm just going to go back and talk about those very quickly, although I have addressed them already. Again, the copyright issues, the royalties issues, this is a huge thing across the world for musicians. And I think that we haven't addressed that as a country. And it's a big problem here as well, because at the end of the day, these guys survive on their creativity. Are we acknowledging that? Are we respecting that? Are we supporting that? The answer to that question as of now is not the way we should be. And of course, the schooling issue, musical schools all over the world in established musical environments. There are schools where young kids can go. Some are free for the lower economic areas, and some are, you pay for the higher economic areas. But we need to put this infrastructure in place. It's like anything. If you're starting a sports program, they call it grassroots. I think we are at a stage now in Kenya where we need to start putting in a grassroots musical program that will eventually lead to creating world-class stars that can eventually be ambassadors for the country and can help promote our agenda as Kenya, but also their own agenda. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you do for a living, whether you're a doctor who does 12 hours of surgery a day, whether you're a TV producer who's out in the field filming all day, or whether you're a musician who's sitting there writing songs that make people happy, help them pass the time in traffic, become, moments or 4 minutes that create memories for a lifetime. It's the same type of respect we need to give that industry as well. On that note, I would like to say a big thank you to Rashmi and her team for starting that conversation, for helping us to understand how important it was with their work with Lit 360 from the Nation Media Group, and for giving us the opportunity to also be a part of this phase of Kenyan music. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Farid, for this very insightful and powerful talk. And before we go to the vote of thanks, there are going to be some questions which hopefully you can answer for us over the next 7 minutes. The first question is from Justice Joyce Oluwatch. How can the Kenyan musicians produce Kenyan music so that they are no longer criticized for borrowing their sound from the West? I heard you talk about this criticism of Kenyan musicians. And perhaps we can take another question as well.
Okay, should I answer that one first?
Yes, please.
Look, it's a tough one, because the argument you'll get from Kenyan musicians is that this is uniquely their sound, and I don't think that we want to eliminate any influence, because every type of music is if you look at the bongo flavor music in Tanzania, there's a Tarab influence. There's a Swahili influence. So I think what we're trying to say is that we need to be true to who we are. Sometimes the imitation is too much. So to go back to our roots, what are our sounds? What were the ancient sounds? What was our culture? How was the music when our parents were listening to, our grandparents were listening to, and try and incorporate those things. Like I said, there are some genres of Kenyan music that have done it, but again, on the whole, we get a lot of the copycat music from Western hip hop, and I think that needs to be addressed. But there is some Kenyan musicians who are actually now in sort of the 20th year of this metamorphosis, starting to realize that, hey, wait a second, we have an identity.
Thank you. There are 2 more questions. Should I read both of them out together?
Yes.
Okay, the first one is from Vice President Ambassador Dr. Josephine Ojiambo. What are your thoughts on traditional Kenyan music and instruments? The Oluika and Nyatiti, the traditional songs and dance. Can we preserve and promote these? And the next question is from Rotarian Lynette from Rotary Club of Mombasa, Nyali. Farid, what are your thoughts on the new genre of music that is currently hitting our airwaves? It is not reggae, raga, neither is it kapuka or genge tone. The language is unknown, not English or Sheng, but the kind of music which seems to be gaining popularity, especially with our teenagers.
Okay, so on the first question you asked about preserving our sort of cultural and ancient sound, I think that there's 2 ways to look at that. One, I think that that there needs to be some sort of preservation of that music as it was and as it stands. But I think there also can be, and it's a great question actually, there can be modern musicians who take from that sound and create. This is exactly what we were talking about in the previous question. Maybe that's where we can create our sound from. If you look at someone like Eric Wainaina, you can't, probably Kenya's most well-known artist, you can't really pinpoint what kind of music he performs. There is something very unique about his sound. And I feel like he has, really stuck to his roots, but at the same time allowed room to modernize that sound into something unique. So I think there is a way to marry the two. The second question I would love to answer, but I'm really not familiar with that the music that Lynette is speaking of. So I apologize. You know, I mean, I know the other genres, but I'm not understanding too much about that type of music that she's speaking about.
Thank you. I have a question from Rotarian Anuja Brusher. Rotarian Anuja would like to ask, Farid, how does reductive analysis along identity lines of national identities go against the global trends?
Okay, so I think what you're asking is looking at our own. Sorry, I'm trying to understand the question. Looking at who we are and putting that into what our creativity, if I'm not mistaken. I hope I'm right there, and how we then create, you know, our own type of music. And I think that's a good question. But I think, you know, again, it's been kind of answered in the previous ones, but I'll go through it again. I think we have to take a good hard look at ourselves in every area and ask ourselves what makes us Kenyan, what makes us who we are, and then, you know, and again, when I say sound, I'm not talking about beats, I'm not talking about rhythm, I'm not talking about instruments, although they would play a big part and a big role in it. What I'm talking about is what is it on a day-to-day basis that we deal with, even in the messaging, the lyrics and the words of the song. I think that's very important as well. We cannot be talking about, you know, drinking champagne in a private jet if that's not our life. But we tend to kind of steal those elements from the West as well.
There is one further question, thank you, Farid, from Rotarian Mumbua Musimi. Is there any way to ensure that the music that makes it to TV and radio is good quality? It seems like anyone can sing anything these days and it passes. And Dr. Margareta Vagasheru says, Farid, what are the best steps to say an excellent Nyatiti player? Sorry, what were the best steps for, say, an excellent Nyatiti player? How long will it take to make it on the Kenyan music scene?
Okay, so the first question there, to ensure that music that makes it to TV and radio is good quality, look, that's something that has been being addressed over the course of the last 10, 15, 16 years. And we do have some really, world-class production houses here for music and video for that matter. And if you listen to the music that's on radio nowadays in terms of its, you know, meeting broadcast standards 100%, you know, I would say 70% of the music that's Kenyan music that's making it to radio and music videos that's making it to TV are actually of the highest quality and would match global standards. So I think that's being addressed. If you're talking about because it says here, it seems that anyone can sing anything these days and it passes. If you're talking about the messaging, you know, again, I think that's really an opinion that you would have. Some people like the messages, some people don't like the messages. But in terms of the broadcast quality and the standard of production, I think that we are 70%, 60 to 70% of where we should be when it comes to global standards. The second question, what are the best steps to say an excellent Nyatiti player to make it on the Kenyan music scene? Having absolutely no interaction with that instrument, but do enjoy listening to it. Look, like I said, the digital space is the playground now. You know, I mean, if you've got a little bit of an edge and something that no one is doing, like, you know, I haven't seen anyone playing the Nyatiti on any of the social media pages. I would say make it a thing. You know, get out there once every couple of days, put a new song out and see where it takes you. You know, request for interviews on radio stations. Maybe this is the time as a country we reflect and see where our musical roots actually come from. And who knows, that particular Nyatiti player could in fact be the influence for the Kenyan sound we're talking about.
Thank you so much, Farid. I'm going to ask you 3 more questions, but maybe you can answer them once the vote of thanks has been carried out. I'll just read out the 3 questions. Thereafter, we will have the vote of thanks, and probably if you can give us just 10 minutes more, because there are a lot of your fans who have questions for you.
Sure.
So you could think about these 3 questions.
Okay.
The first one is from Vashera. I was wondering whether this question could be asked. What do you think would be the best advice for new artists moving forward? The second question is from Dennis Sigay. In your opinion, Farid, how would we encourage talent but still ensure moral consciousness? And from Dr. Margareta Wagasheru, what do you think of Ketball Productions? Rotarian Anuja says, excellent speaker and fascinating subject, but I'd also request Rotarian Anuja to stay back a bit longer after this meeting has ended officially, and we can engage in a greater conversation with Farid. I now request Ambassador Dr. Josephine Ojiambo to kindly give a vote of thanks to our speaker for the day. Dr. Josephine?
Thank you very much, President Ritesh, Rotarians, and friends. It's just been a very breathtaking discussion, nurturing musical talent. Thank you so much, Farid, for taking time, first of all, to join us in our Rotary Fellowship and for gracing this occasion as our keynote speaker. Many are a little cautious when coming to speak to Rotarians, but I just love the way you just got straight to the point and took us through this journey. We know you as one of Kenya's most talented media personalities. You have one of the most recognizable faces and voices in the media industry, not just in Kenya, but across Africa. Your work, passion, and talent speaks for itself, and we've heard it this afternoon, from the quick-witted, humorous morning shows on Capital FM, and we listen, to XFM, and to Nation FM, to the popular TV shows you've hosted. You've hosted Mnet's Big Brother, Africa. You've hosted KTN's The Presenter, Face of Africa, to mention but a few of the many programs you have produced. Your industriousness is truly unparalleled. Throughout your illustrious broadcasting career, and now I hear it started in the legal world, the one thing I find quite admirable about you is the authenticity with which you tell the story about the history of music in our country, and the authenticity with which you carry yourself. Your love for the country just speaks for itself, and your love for Africa. Your courage in breaking the mold and starting your own online radio show. I mean, you've told us all about digital, but you didn't mention your radio show, 54 Live or 54 Live. In everything you do, you actually live to tell of your own innovation, your own inspiration, and your purpose. And therefore, you tell your own story. You truly are and continue to be a legend. More of you are important in order to carry Kenya beyond where we are today, the great pause around COVID, into the future. We are very honored to have had you as our guest speaker. Thank you very, very much from all of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Ambassador Dr. Josephine Ojiambo. I now have closing remarks. Thank you to Farid. Thank you so much. I have this beautiful cup for you. I don't know whether you can see it.
I can. Thank you.
And it has your name on it.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
As well as your certificate delivered to you.
Thank you very much.
And it was a very insightful talk. And I think if you can please give us 10 more minutes to stay back, and there are going to be many more questions from all the individuals who have logged on specifically to be in your presence, right? I now would like to ask our Sergeant at Arms if Past President Kamal is with us, if you can let us know the collections for the day.
Thank you very much, President Ritesh. Unfortunately, the collections have not come through to me. I think they're going straight to the treasurer. So, and I'm not in the loop. So I guess things will come to you, I presume.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, since we are actually making payments via M-Pesa, I will get the notification. So far, I have got confirmation that we have already collected 3,400 shillings and more money is coming in. Thank you, Sergeant. Thank you. I now would like to let you know the attendance report. Visiting Rotary clubs were as follows today. We had 9 visiting clubs, 15 visiting Rotarians, 6 visiting Rotaractors, 7 guests, 1 interactor, and 30 club members present. I would like us now to kindly have the toast. If you can put your hand on your chest or raise a glass.
It's 14 hours.
To Rotary Club of Nairobi East, to Rotary Club of Gigiri, Rotary Club of Thika Road, Rotary Club of Kikuyu, Rotary Club of Mombasa Nyali, Rotary Club of Carolina, USA, Rotary Club of Ongata Rongai, Rotary Club of Langata, Rotary Club of Nairobi North, and visiting Rotaract clubs, Rotaract Club of Nairobi Central, Rotaract Club of Limuru, Rotary Club of Limuru, Rotaract Club of Nairobi KCA Information, and Interact Club of Karura. Thank you to all Rotarians and Rotaractors visiting, to Rotary the world over.
To Rotary the world over.
Thank you. And one final announcement is of a speaker next week is going to be Ms. Pamela Sitoni. Ms. Pamela Sitoni is actually logged on to the meeting today and is also a guest of Rotarian Rashmi Chur. And we look forward to her wonderful talk next week. Thank you, Rotarians and guests, for attending the meeting today. And yes, now we may continue with some questions for Mr. Farid. Farid?
Yes. Okay. There was a couple here. I just need to go back and have a look. Okay.
Farid, before you answer, can I just say one question, then maybe you can incorporate your answers?
Yeah.
Well, I try to listen as much radio as possible when my wife is not there, because otherwise I have to listen to her. Don't you think that we are losing touch with the older generation music, which was the traditional Kenyan music as such, like Jambo Bwana, those sort of music, then Mushrooms, and now we're going into those hip hop, text-heavy music. Don't you think we should try and encourage that to come back and bring back our roots, especially on the radio, and keep in touch with the older generation and with the new generation in mix?
Yeah, I think there is definitely a strategy needed to create a bridge which isn't there. We've sort of, and this was my point really when I was talking about what's happened in this sort of like last 2 decades, this borrowing from the West and sort of not really acknowledging that music was taught in the 40s and 50s here. Actually, it was that's when the sort of boom, the real boom of music happened. The sound, the East African sound. Again, speaking of them Mushrooms, I'll give you a bit of an example. Last year, the Karoga Festival, which is this massive music festival that Capital FM does every 3 months. The biggest attendance in audience actually came when Dem Mushrooms was the lead act. And the average age, because I was emceeing that event, the average age I would say was probably between 25 and 35, maybe 40 at the top end. So that there is still a love for that kind of music, but I think we've just kind of looked at what's cool and what's hip and what's trending. And unfortunately, what we see on social media, and I'm at the very top age of someone active on social media, to be perfectly honest, what we see on social media is kind of the way, unfortunately, and I do think this is unfortunate, and I have this argument all the time, we should not be picking our music trends on radio from what we see on social media, but unfortunately, that's the way it's gone.
Thank you, Farid. Rotarian Anuja, are you still with us? Yes.
Yes, I am.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Did you want me to say something, Ritesh?
Please, yes, please.
Yes, sure. I'll elaborate a little bit more on my question, Farid, if I may.
Sure.
This idea, when I say reductive, to suggest that something is now Kenyan or East African, these are reductive in its essence. There are different tribes, different cultures, different languages incorporated in this idea of Kenya. So, and then there's also the global, where yes, we're moving towards one culture, but I can express. I don't have to sit in a jet and sip champagne to to make it authentic, my experience of it. You know, it's like the American hip hop scene. I'm just thinking through my understanding of race relations, really, that the truth is our experience through digital, the digital arena now, as you said, the platform is leveled out. There is a authenticity of experience that is mediated through, you know, whatever medium, whether it's radio, television, or whatever. And as a Kenyan, as a British national or an Indian national or American national, it shouldn't matter anymore whether I'm actually experiencing it or not. It's my reaction to it. Sometimes when I listen to the Kenyan lyrics, I'm listening to people's aspirations, people's need to be recognized as a voice. But it doesn't necessarily have to be that I have to become the billionaire sitting in the jet to do that. And I'm just wondering if that, you know, because that's a different kind of trend. And I find with my work with young people that they're much more there than they are with this idea of what's Kenyan and what belongs here and what belongs there anymore. It isn't quite like that anymore.
You know, I really like what you've said there about, first of all, it being aspirational. I think that's a wonderful way to look at life. You know, I think a lot of the radio formats I've worked in have been aspirational formats. It may not be exactly what, I don't talk about exactly what my listeners going through, but again, it's something that they can aspire to be. So I think that's a wonderful statement you made there. The other part of what I like what you said, and I'm going to just talk about my experience for a moment there, is, you know, I long for a day where we stop saying local music when we play a Kenyan song. Because when they play a song by Beyonce in America, they don't say local artist Beyonce. You know what I mean? And I think that's kind of where you're going. It is just music. And I think that's exactly, that's a very vital element to where we need to get to with our music. It's just, we shouldn't be saying local rapper, local singer, Kenyan rapper, Kenyan singer, because when you look at the global norm of artists, no one ever said when Michael Jackson was played on the radio, local artist Michael Jackson, if he was played on a radio station in the States. So I can really understand your point there. And I agree with you to some degree that we need to get away from, you know, maybe pigeonholing the labeling, but rather just saying this is music and this is their experience. So I can see quite a bit of your point in what you said. Absolutely.
Thank you, Farid. And before we go to the next question, we have Ambassador Dr. Josephine, who has one important announcement to make for all the Rotarians and visitors. Ambassador Josephine.
Thank you very much, President Ritesh, fellow Rotarians and our guests. Just a quick one. Many of you may have seen some pictures posted on our WhatsApp pages of a launch between PZ Cousins and the district Rotary officials. And I want to say we are happy that we have Secretary Tito today on the call. But Tito, together with our incoming District Governor Patrick Obath and several others of us, attended a launch 2 days ago at the El Mara at the Ole Sereni on Mombasa Road of a partnership between PZ Cousins and Rotary District 9212, but with an initial focus in Nairobi, Kenya. The launch was really a potential to raise 10 million Kenyan shillings in the next year from every sale of bar of Cousin soap that would be used at a hand washing facility in order to promote hand hygiene. The initial project focus will be in Babadogo, where PZ Cousins has its industry. But the message goes countrywide up to the small micro enterprise retailers, where every bar of soap generates money that comes back not only to us as Rotary clubs, but to the Kenyan communities. This resource is available for each one of us at our clubs to plug into, and Tito Tadeo will soon be launching the program next week for the way forward for the new district team. Just wanted to share that and to say thank you very much for the time.
Thank you, Vice President Ambassador Dr. Josephine. And that is truly a very wonderful initiative. We were watching online. It's heartwarming to see the amount of activities which is being carried out by the committees. And I think you've spearheaded quite a bit of the Rotary activities on behalf of the district, so well done.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to represent our club there.
Thank you. Thank you. And now we go back to our guest for today, Mr. Farid.
Yes. There's a couple of questions here. I'm going to run in about 5 minutes, if that's okay. I've got a Zoom call, so I'm just going to answer one or two. There's one here which is interesting. If I could just pick it free, what is your opinion on Gengetone, and do you think it dilutes the efforts made by you and others into building an authentic Kenyan sound that can compete in the international scene because of the kind of language used in the music? You know, I think this is a very interesting question. You know, music is personal. I think that there's a huge audience for Gengetone artists. We don't all have to agree. You know, I think as we all grew up listening to our music, our parents also would tell us that music is not music. That music is, you shouldn't be listening to that. The messaging is wrong. So I think you can't really answer that. The Gengetone following in this country is huge. And, you know, when we say diluting the efforts made by us and others, I don't think so. I think Gengetone really is probably one of the closest genres we have to an authentic Kenyan sound, modern Kenyan urban sound. I can't remember the rest of the questions.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Farid. It's been truly an honor to have you with us in our meeting today. And
thank you.
I greatly thank Rashmi. Rashmi, thank you so much for bringing us such a wonderful speaker. Are you there?
Yes, I think we should thank Farid. He's brought so much energy, and actually I've never heard him talk so much but, because it has always worked before. Wonderful to have you, Farid.
Thank you, Rashmi.
Keep on doing the great work that you've been doing.
Thank
you
you
so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thank you to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate your time, and I'll make sure that you get your gift.
Yeah, it's lovely. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Farid. Wonderful.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day, everyone.
Thank you.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Farid. That was really interesting. Hope we can continue this sometime.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to all it was so wonderful to have all.
Thank you. Thank you, President Ritesh.
Thank you, Anuja.
Very nice meeting. Very nice meeting.
Thank you.
Yes, yes.
Talk to you soon.
President Ritesh, I want to thank you and Rashmi for focusing now on creativity. I think it's a really important topic, and we need to see more. We've had just a couple of creative speakers, and I think it really energizes our meetings and also is a great impetus for the community of artists seeing support from Rotary. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Margareta. Thank you, Past President Angela Mbugua of Rotary Club of Nairobi, Gigiri. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, Past President Elizabeth. It's always wonderful.
Thank you. It was a great presentation. I really enjoyed.
Thank you. And I hope you were not driving throughout the presentation.
I was.
But safely, I'm sure.
Hands-free.
Hands-free. Ah, wonderful, wonderful. So thank you. Please do give our best regards and wishes to all the members of Rotary Club of Nairobi, Gigiri. And Rotarian Bernard, thank you for staying on. And Past President Elizabeth, it's always such a great joy. Rotarian, Rotaractor Samantha, IPP of Rotaract Nairobi Central. Thank you. Rotarian Susan, thank you. Winnie, thank you so much.
I think it's also a wonderful commentary that so many visiting Rotarians came to your meeting.